Welcome to the Operation Common Sense podcast. We're on every major podcast platform, so wherever you're listening from, go ahead and do a quick follow, little subscribe. And again, when you subscribe, you are going to get more of a personal interview and connection type style. Comments are always good. We'd love to see what you guys are thinking and invite yourself on the show. And if we can make it work, we will. My name's Casey. Quick little background. If you've seen the other episodes, you know I'm a Coast Guard veteran, which throws me over to Matt, who is a prior intel guy. I'll let him kind of introduce himself before we get on to the war in Christianity.
Yep. So I've got 20 years of providing intelligence services, mainly in Northeast or North Africa and Middle East. So that's my background. Just have a little bit of a different perspective on things. So yeah, like Casey said, hit the follow, subscribe button, be part of the conversation. We definitely want to hear from you. Like I said, we don't have all the answers, but we're definitely open to hearing your opinions on what we're talking about. So today we've got an interesting topic. I'm going to put this disclaimer out there real quick here. This is by no means to single out any religion, ethnicity, cultural backgrounds, whatever. As we all know, you read the news, there's bad in everything. There's bad in every race. There's bad in every religion. There's bad in every ethnic background in the world. We're simply pointing out this topic because it's something that's not being reported on mainstream media and news, and we can't quite figure out why. So we want to dive into it. This is the war on Christianity.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I've had some personal experience when it comes to this from a couple different perspectives, and I'll get into those here later. When you start looking at numbers of Christians that have either been displaced or killed, say throughout North Africa and Middle East, the numbers are staggering.
And unreported. So the reason we even had this thing is Matt called me the other day. He's like, hey, did you know about, I'll let him get into the juicy details about it, but there's like what has been considered now, they just considered it a genocide of Christians.
Yeah, the U.S. Congress and the British Parliament formally recognized this as a genocide, and it's unbelievable. So I'm gonna throw out some numbers here, and we're gonna get into this discussion. So staggering numbers come out of North Africa, sub-Saharan, to include 18,000 churches burned since 2009.
Yep.
So 18,000 churches burned since 2009, 5 million Christians displaced since 2009, 50,000 killed since 2009, including 7,000 in 2025 this year so far. And that's just what's being reported. Right. And that's not the Middle East or North Africa as a whole. That's a small segment between, say, like Niger, Nigeria. Just recently, I saw that there was a Christian aid worker. I think I don't know if I want to get into where the organization's from. It's a Southern-based organization. They were providing, NGO, humanitarian aid, relief type of services in Niger. The Christian aid worker was just taken in Niger. Right. So let me kind of get into what this looks like
for him specifically, but then,
just across the whole, right? And yeah, some specific to him. So you have a U.S. citizen that was just taken a foreign land. So most people say, okay, military, right?
Yeah.
Military is not coming to get this guy. This is now FBI jurisdiction, right? You have a U.S. citizen that's being held against his will in a foreign country. Sorry, I got my dog in here and he's looking at everybody. I would assume that there's a team up in New York, what they call an extraterritorial team that covers North Africa. I'd assume they're taking lead on this. Here's where it gets complicated, okay? Is that within 24 hours or less, this guy's taking into, some area that's not controlled by any type of government entities or organization, right? This is controlled by some type of extremist jihadi group. I would almost go and assume that the people that took him aren't the ones that hold him now,
Yeah,
right?
so you're saying was likely sold
Or
on.
sold, pawned
Mhm,
off to another group.
mhm,
And maybe that has happened, 2 times at this point.
mhm.
My assumption is that he's gonna end up with some type of ISIS
Right.
affiliate
Mhm,
organization in Niger, which, they run rampant, like, between Mali, Niger,
mhm.
Burkina Faso, Libya, uh, parts of Algeria, they run rampant, right? And they're all kind of like splinter groups,
Yeah,
right? So my guess is this guy's being held. He's gonna have a tough road, right?
yeah.
I mean, the longer this goes, it's been maybe
Starvation, I mean,
well,
torture.
listen, starvation would be the easy route.
Yeah.
When you look back at some of the videos that ISIS put out, um, I sent a photo in earlier of the Egyptian Coptic Christians,
Mhm.
I think 15 of them lined up in Libya, all beheaded.
This isn't like make-believe fairy tale, this is.
No, no, this is real life. This is happening, right? And the brutality of these, and I say extremist radical groups. Listen, there's radical in every religion,
Right.
right? This
Yeah.
is not pointed towards Islam by any stretch of imagination, because as I told Casey, 90%, 95, 99% of the Muslims I've met over my career,
Mhm,
all great people. They've all been friendly. It's that 1% of anything
mhm.
that kills it, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, you have a 1% of these radicals that have taken to the extreme measure of what this religion
Mhm.
in their eyes is, right?
Yeah, on what he's saying, and we'll get into it later, but they've stripped, especially certain parts of scripture out of the Quran, let's say if it's Islam, they've stripped a few very specific scriptures, and they use that as their basis for judgment, but they're also coerced by political gain, you know what I mean? Like, and so like Matt was saying, you get these splinter groups, and whoever's in charge of this one group, his political gain and his interpretation of the Quran during this point in his life, now he forms this machine. And even if this guy changes his mind, he's created something that can't be undone. I mean, and
And
so that's what it's almost like some kind of infection, like once it touches all the other cells in the body, there's no like, oh, hold on, I changed my mind. I read the Quran. You can't go back.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's
it,
a
it
vicious cycle.
it's a radical vision of what
Mhm,
uh Islam as a religion, right, as they say. And
mhm.
I'll tell you the kind of the story we used to talk about in the Middle East when I was there. And um I don't want to say it's a running joke, because it's definitely not anything to joke about.
Yeah.
But here's my 2 cents on religion.
Mhm,
Okay. Is that you're getting someone's interpretation of what the Quran, Bible, whatever it
mhm,
may be,
mhm,
what it says,
mhm.
right? Because you're not getting it, right from the source.
Right.
So when you look at the Middle East and you have, a pretty high number of folks
Mhm,
that can't read or write, and they go to their imam or their
mhm.
or pastor or preacher, whatever,
Yep.
and they say, "Hey, what does this say? What does this mean? Right? What does it say?"
Mhm,
You're getting that person's interpretation of what that says.
mhm,
Now, that could be a very general, by the book
mhm.
assessment, depending on who you talk, or it could be a radical element,
Yep.
right? And it's that radical element that says, "Hey, this is what this means."
Yep.
And so we used to have a saying in the Middle East that the most dangerous person in the Middle East is a Harvard graduate, right? Because he was smart enough to influence everyone else to go do things.
Yep.
And that's pretty true. So that's very similar to what's going on here. You have these folks that have a radical belief of what Islam is,
Mhm,
and it's an extremist, right? And like I said, there's extremists in all religions, like the Westboro Baptist people.
mhm,
They were Baptists. They were definitely on the extreme side. I don't agree with anything those guys said. They were nutcases, right?
mhm.
And they'll have to answer for that one day. Just like these folks here will have to answer for it one day. But in their mind, them answering to what they're doing by their maker is their goal.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of Americans don't understand. When we say a Christian guy was taken over the Middle East, you have to understand that street level violence that we can relate to in America is a ransom, or it's maybe leverage, or it's you owe me money. When these guys do this, it is the highest form of glory that they can bring their interpretation of their religion and that they can bring to their country and their politics. So when your enemy is somebody who wants to die,
It's
killing them is only glorified. So that's what
it's
I
a whole
guess.
different mindset, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
But you understand for these radicals,
Mhm.
like either you're Muslim
Mhm.
or you're dead. There's no in between here,
Mm-mm.
right? So the fact that, and was this a pre-planned type of kidnapping? Probably not.
Yeah.
This was a target of opportunity
Opportunity, yeah.
that, hey, we grabbed this guy. We don't know who he is, right? Well, he's a white guy.
Mhm.
And, and let's take him. He's probably passed off. This guy's, and his family, God bless them, they are in a nightmare right now because, yes, the FBI is running point. And now maybe they could have positioned, they might have positioned a drone up oversight. We had a drone base in Niger, but they closed it down a couple years ago under Biden. But anyway, they might have moved the drone over to see if they could track, but
Movement.
probably too late.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to track anyway. Like this is a pretty unforgiving landscape
Yep.
that you're in. You would hope that at some point there'll be some type of ransom demand.
Mhm.
If not, that's actually worse,
Yeah.
right?
Because then he's just at the will of.
Well, because then you got to assume that you're with a group that doesn't care about getting anything in return,
Mhm.
right? And that's like worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I don't know there's been any videos released of this guy, any propaganda
Mhm.
with this person yet. I haven't seen any. This person is living a nightmare along with his family and that organization, just really trying to, spread Christianity, help people that are in areas that are depressed. Um, we all have our opinions on, well, do these folks actually belong in these territories? I
Yeah.
would say the short answer to that is no, they don't belong there. Uh, but the long answer is yes, they do, right? Because
Yeah, they
that's
are
just
serving a purpose.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's their mission, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, we see it all the time, in Afghanistan. You get now some people are just stupid, right? Let's just call it,
Yeah,
they're just fucking
they
dumb.
run over there with buckets of water thinking they're gonna
Well,
solve
yeah,
the
I mean,
world's
no, it
problems.
was in Afghanistan. There's some three people were taken by Al Qaeda. They were backpacking through Afghanistan. I'm like, all right, well,
Go to Europe.
you're a moron.
Yeah, go to Europe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, we've seen before, people taken in Yemen, right? Because they're in Yemen passing out Bibles. I get it. I understand
Yeah.
what you're doing,
They
but
feel compelled.
yeah, but you're in an area that dude, they don't want your Bibles.
Yeah.
Right, and sometimes it's best not to poke the bear. As Casey mentioned, U.S. Congress, British Parliament has formally recognized this as a genocide just because of the staggering numbers. And
All of which they're not mainstreaming this though. It's
no,
which is so strange.
you don't see this being reported, right? I mean, if there is a reporting of this, it's a blip on the radar
Mhm.
that you just look right over
Mhm.
and go. I'm going to tell you something that's not been reported. And this is firsthand knowledge.
Mm.
Um, We all remember the Yazidis, at least I do. The Yazidis, they are the Christian, um, ethnic group, if you would, in Iraq. Well, when ISIS and Al Qaeda were taking over both Syria and Iraq, the Yazidis were hated. They were the devils,
Mhm.
right? And these people were going to die because you had a massive force of people coming to kill you.
Mhm.
And they were hostages. Most of the camps in Syria, the ISIS camps, detention camps, and so forth, um, were all Yazidis. We got asked to look into organ harvesting in Syria.
Yeah. So just so that sits, and make sure everyone is clear, he just said organ harvesting. It is
Yes.
like, that's not like a plant that is harvested in the Middle East. That he's talking about, this radical group was using this small Christian entity for their bodies to harvest organs, and then your intel basically can carry out the rest of this
Yeah.
story. But
So
that's, I mean, that's just so people understand the severity. That's a real thing.
yeah, and most of these, unfortunately, most of the people that had their organs ripped out
Mm-hmm.
of their body were Yazidis.
Mm-hmm.
Or innocent folks. Like Yazidis, they were stuck on Mount Sinjar up in the northern Iraq. They don't bother anybody. They just, like anyone else, they want to practice their religion in peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we should all be able to do that.
Yep.
We should all be able to practice our religion without the threat of a extremist group coming and I think they said they call them devils, and they're going to exterminate them. A lot of these Yazidis were taken by ISIS. In Iraq, and obviously with Iraq not really being a ISIS, only parts of Iraq were held by ISIS, right? Certain territories.
Yeah.
So they went back into Raqqa, Syria. And throughout Syria, there were a number of different ISIS camps, and these Yazidis were obviously part of those camps. And what we started seeing is that a network of secret hospitals that ranged from Raqqa up into Syria, up along the Turkish border. There were a couple surgeons in Raqqa. One of them was an American surgeon, if you guys believe that. There was a Brit surgeon and 2 Frenchies
Interesting.
that were essentially removing organs from these people.
Yeah.
That weren't dead. These people weren't dead. They were alive,
Yeah.
right? They weren't injured. These are just everyday folks walking around one day. Next day, somebody's ripping your organs out.
Yeah.
And the goal was for ISIS to start their own donor system, right? They wanted to start their own organ donor system that if, the Baghdadis or whoever else in ISIS were injured and they needed organs, they had their own donor system. Now, some of these folks were ISIS folks that were wounded in battle. Like, I'll give you an example. There was one guy who was shot in the leg.
Mm-hmm.
Leg wound. Not a big deal, right? Next thing you know, his family receives a couple $1,000, and they never see him again.
Dang.
So they ripped his organs out from a leg wound with the benefit of, hey, your family's going to benefit from this, right? And we're talking a couple $1,000, but a couple $1,000 over there is, decent amount of money. And yeah, and he goes missing. And there was a string of private hospitals we were able to get inside of and get pictures of people, phone numbers, emails, descriptions who these folks are, cars. And I had all these locations of these hospitals, and then what wasn't being used in the donor system was smuggled into Turkey by one of their intelligence officers.
Turkish intelligence?
Turkish intelligence. To his own game, and then put on the black market the historical smuggling routes through Turkey out into Europe.
They're just using the same ones they've always used.
Yeah. I mean, the Middle East is full of them.
Oh, yeah.
When they move terrorists through North Africa, when they have what they call their escorts, right? They go traditional smuggling routes that have been established for hundreds and thousands of years. But yeah, so that's kind of the, another example of Christians being persecuted and killed and used by these extremist groups. A couple other numbers here. Christian population in Iraq has fallen from 1.5 million in 2003 to around 120,000 in 2024. Right? So, and not all that is death. Some of that is
death by violence. Yeah, it's not all death by violence.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's displacement. It's, hey, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
Or I gotta say I'm not one anymore
Yeah.
for sake of my son staying alive.
Or it's death, right?
Mm-hmm.
After the Afghan pullout, and I'll get into this a little bit. My company is contacted by an NGO, and their job is essentially going into war areas, war-torn areas, active war zones, and converting folks to Christianity, right? So at the time, they had a number of folks in Afghanistan that have converted from Islam to Christianity. And they were in villages helping out folks, and providing medical and water and this and that.
Mhm.
Well, after the pullout, these guys became the Yazidis of Afghanistan. Taliban
Oh,
knew exactly who they were.
where they were.
They knew exactly who these people were, right? And now they were being hunted. And like when you're hunted, um, typically you don't last very long, right? Especially when the people know who you are. And that may seem like a wild theory. Let me give you an example. One of the first families. So, in short, our job was to move these Christians, protect them,
Mhm.
feed them, and move them out of Afghanistan. So, I'll tell you a quick story about one of the first families we moved. Right,
Mhm.
it was a wife, husband, uh, a 7-year-old daughter, and two early teen sons. The husband's brother was the Taliban. That's how close this is. So when I say that, hey, they know who you are, this is how they know who you are,
Yeah.
right? Um, After the Taliban took over, and I don't think I've ever told you this story, so you're going to hear it the first time. Pretty much everyone outside of those folks that know exactly what I'm talking about, which is a very limited number. This is the first time you're going to hear this story. So the husband's brother kills the husband.
Okay.
Okay, kills his brother.
Okay.
Right? Goes to essentially his sister-in-law's, what we would call sister-in-law house, right?
Mhm.
Rapes his 5-year-old niece
In front of.
in front of the mom and his sons. Says, "You got 48 hours, and all of you are gonna die. I'm gonna kill every one of you."
What was his term? I mean, was he like, "You need to stay here or get out from."
"No, you're just gonna fucking die.
Really?
I'm coming back in 48 hours, and I'm gonna kill you." That's your husband's brother
Mhm.
that did that to his niece,
Yeah.
and, so they were the first ones that we got out.
Okay.
For very first ones that we took them and went in hiding. And that's just one story. There's thousands of those stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The stories coming out of Syria right now are worse than that. What people don't understand is the violence and the extreme violence and just these guys are barbarians, what they do to people.
Yeah.
All in the name of religion, right? And when you're burning, kids alive, douse them with gas and setting them on fire, right? And you get to the Middle East and you see women being hung with meat hooks,
Yeah.
babies cut out of them.
It's like they treat humans like weeds. If
Man,
we can kill them all, we'll get rid of them all mentality.
and then it makes you wonder, like you see these people here protesting for Hamas.
Mhm.
Like that's what these people do.
Yeah, this is their day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you may be protesting against for these people here in DC. You should actually go over there. Go over there for a week.
Yeah.
Right? And see what life is like. And that's what ISIS used to they trick a bunch of people, right? And they learned to communicate a very similar way that we used to communicate, right? You communicate through like Xbox platforms
Right,
or
right.
PS, platforms, right? Because they can't be tracked.
Mhm.
And you get these kids like, hey, you want to come over and play real life Call of Duty? It's great.
No
And,
kidding.
and that's how they would recruit these kids from the US. You would see stories about these kids from the US coming over to Syria, right? And girls.
To become war fighters?
Yeah, they wanna go play Call of Duty. They think this is a fucking game, and that's how it was presented to them. Like, "Hey, you wanna do this for real? It's better than a video game." And now grant, these aren't kids that actually have common sense,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm telling you, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, you wanna come over and do this shit for real?" I'm like, "Yeah. No."
Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't pass the sniff test for me, right?
Right.
But here's the biggest thing, is the girls that would come over. You'll see that, there'll be 14, 15, 13, 16-year-old girls,
Mhm.
uh, going to Syria because they want to live this life. Now, these are typical, gang mentality, right? These are kids that come home from broken homes, right? And the gang puts their arm around them. Hey, you're part of us now. They make them feel like there's something, so they feel welcome, right? Let me tell you exactly what happens when you first get in Syria, right? The first thing they do is they take your passport and they burn it.
Really?
Yep. So now you can't leave.
No, you're screwed now.
Because no country will take you because you have no ID.
Yeah.
Right?
You're a number at that point.
You're nothing. And then the women, the girls, you get raped 6 ways a Sunday by everybody.
Yeah.
Right? You get married off. And now you're married to some 60-year-old man until he decides to sell you to somebody else. The guys, they get thrown right into, hey, now you're front lines. Now you're in it for your life. Like this isn't a video game anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you got people shooting back at you. You've got an active civil war going on that you just volunteered to join from your home in Colorado or whatever. And for some reason, there was a lot of people from Colorado that ended up making that journey. I don't know why that is, but
that is weird.
I remember seeing a number of reports of people from Colorado coming out. But yeah, so now you're actively involved and you can't get home. You don't have a phone. You can't call mom, right? There's no U.S. embassy or consulate or outpost or anything in that country.
That's like a horror movie.
So now you're screwed.
Yeah.
You are absolutely screwed. So you die, right? You die, whatever. You live this horrible life. And and you're trapped. You have no way out. Like, can you imagine what that's like? Back to some of these things. In 2005 or 2025, sorry, a report cited an estimated 18.48 million believers displaced or killed in Syria and Iraq alone.
And that's Christians we're talking about
That's
there?
Christians.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's out of, just so you guys have a reference, there's the current count of Christian believers is 2.4 billion. So that's the entire world too. 2.4 billion is the entire world. Just in the Middle East, where I feel like some people don't even realize there are Christians. First off, there was over 18 million, almost 19 million Christians killed over that span. And then another 1.2 displaced, aka used and abused, probably forgotten, or forced to convert under the end of a gun or whatever, or to publicly deny that they were Christians or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, or you suffer.
Yeah,
right.
Like say it, or it's like the guy. It's like say uncle.
Yeah.
But just a terrible version of it.
Yeah, 89 killed just a month ago in DRC. Right. I mean, this is not a Syria Iraq thing.
That's the Republic of Congo, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So for the listeners, that's the Republic, which is Northern Africa.
So it's actually almost like central. So it borders Uganda to the west, borders Rwanda to the north. It's a pretty big country.
Yeah.
I think 60% of DRC is swamp. Ish.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Is
Yeah.
a physical representation is you're landlocked in a hellhole of conditions.
Yeah.
As far as temperature and everything else, and in a month, that was just last month.
So DRC is interesting because a little sidebar here. Joseph Kony from the Lord's Resistance Army, right? So he's Ugandan by birth. But if you ever look at the origin of child soldiers in Africa, right, when you see these movies of, the child soldiers out killing people and this and that, these old kids all whacked out and stuff, that was all part of the Lord's Resistance Army headed by Joseph Kony. And Kony's still alive. Well, I mean, he may be dead, but no one's killed him.
Right, yeah. He didn't die by violence, yeah.
I know the Ugandan special forces have been looking for him because a buddy of mine used to run presidential intelligence for Uganda, and he had a task force that that was leading the effort to go try and find this guy. Even U.S. special forces have been over there trenching around trying to find this guy. And most likely he's in DRC. I think that's kind of the running theory, but no one's ever going to find him. Let's go back to when bin Laden first declared war on the United States, right? and how people say, well, they hate the Western world, right? It's not that they don't hate the West because they hate America, right?
Yeah.
Or the UK or anywhere else, right? Canada, whatever it may be. They hate it because of our religion, the
Yeah.
way we live our life, because it's not what they believe
Mhm.
life should be.
Yeah.
So this is not a new thing. This
is since the
it's a
beginning of
thing.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's why they always thrive to attack the United States or our interests or the UK or EU, whatever it may be, right?
Mhm.
Is because not because they hate
Me.
you and I personally.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they do.
Yeah.
They hate the way that we live our life. They hate that in their eyes that this world should
That they're
be.
catering to us to be able to live the way we live.
Yeah, I mean, in their eyes, the world should all be one religion, and that's their extreme
Mhm.
view of Islam.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even. I think we talked about this earlier. You can't even put a number on how many extremists there are globally, right? Because it changes so quickly.
Mhm.
But I know at one point, how many Muslims are there in the world?
There are 1.9 billion Islam. So for people that don't, I'm not demeaning your intelligence for the listeners, but for people who don't understand, Muslim is like a official title for a certain group of people that follow the Islamic religion. So, but you can't say Muslim and say that they're not Islamic. So there's 1.9 billion Islamic followers globally.
So I heard a stat a couple years ago.
And I have an interesting thing to point out after you make this point, so
Yeah.
people kind of have reference of religion and why this is even a topic. And
So 1.9 billion. How many
Mhm.
Christians are there in the world?
Total Christians in the world are 2.4 billion. So we shadow them by about a full billion,
Okay. So
give or take.
the last time I heard, and obviously I don't put any substance behind this, it's just a reference point,
Right, right.
but 10% of all Muslims
Mhm.
are
Yeah.
radical.
That's what we were. Yeah. So for the listeners, that's what me and him were talking about offline. If you want to know the power of an extremist group, or if you want to know the most dangerous thing to a religion is the human hand. The most dangerous thing to ever touch a Bible is the human hand, because when they open that book, the way they interpret it is what happens for the rest of the world. And so, to Matt's point, is 10% is an extremist. Out of all those billions, there's 10% that are having this much influence and creating this much violence and evil, honestly, in the world.
And you can look at that for two different ways. You could say, well, that's a small percentage,
Right.
right? Or you can say that's 190 million
Yeah. Yeah.
potential terrorists out there,
Mhm.
which is an overwhelming number.
Especially if you spread them out.
Yeah. So
Which is from our last episode. If you guys want to go back and check that out, we kind of give a visual reference to how terrorist groups move, why they move, where they how they get funded, where they stay when they get there. So out of 190 people, that's a nation. That's an entire. I mean, that's a small nation. It's very known that people become influenced, especially in Canada and these regions. Like they can end up in a. It takes them a few months, and they're
Yeah.
they're getting to go do the big boy stuff.
It's propaganda,
Mhm.
right? It's this theory of how great life is under this type of religion.
And Americans do it too. Christians do it too.
I think
Bill Sam is the prime example.
you look at Instagram influencers, not all of them, but most live a life
Mhm.
because and people like, I want to be like that. I want to be like that.
Yeah,
Regardless of how true that life is.
because I get to see the shiny.
Yeah, they got to see the shiny object and I want that, right?
Mhm.
And so the jihadists do the same thing,
Mhm.
right? And through the same means.
It will likely come off because the Quran is a very peaceful book. If anybody's ever delved into it, even if you're a Christian, it'll probably behoove you to see actually it's all the same characters are at play. It's the same, it's almost the same Bible.
Yeah.
I don't want to use that incorrectly, but it's almost the same Bible. So what to Matt's point is he's saying is they love bomb you in. They don't say, hey, you want to go cut people's heads off? No, they use scripture from the Quran, which the Quran is mostly peaceful. It is a peaceful book, actually, which 90 other percent of them agree that it's a peaceful book. But that's how they get you in.
Yeah.
They love bomb you in, and then you're into something that you can't get out of.
Yep. I saw a lot of after 9/11 is there's a lot of anti-Islam community. And dude, that aggravates me so much because
That we would put a cloak over the whole Islamic nation
yeah, it's
based
just
on
the
the
people
actions
that
of
are saying that,
Mhm.
oh, all Muslims are bad and this,
Mhm.
that. You wouldn't know a Muslim if they smacked you in the face,
No.
right? That's my issue is that you put this whole target on a religion
Mhm.
where, I mean, like I said, 99% of the folks I've met,
Mhm.
great people.
Yeah.
Like I've had them at my house, staying at
Mhm.
my house.
Mhm.
One of my best friends is Muslim,
Mhm.
Pakistani Brit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Muslim dude, yeah.
Yeah, and like I no issues,
Yeah.
right? Um, but here's the thing: how does this spread to everyday life, right?
Mhm.
Everyday life, and you look at the way these guys operate and what they've done over the years. I'll tell you a funny, an interesting fun fact here, and some people may know this. I don't know how really common knowledge this is,
Mhm.
but Daniel Pearl. You remember Daniel Pearl? Off.
Um,
Daniel Pearl was a reporter, I believe a Wall Street Journal reporter.
oh, he went
He was beheaded
yes,
overseas,
yes, yeah,
right?
yeah, yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
So, let me tell you the story about Daniel Pearl. I think this was 2004, maybe. He was actually beheaded by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM,
Mm.
the mastermind, the
Yeah,
so-called mastermind of
of
9/11,
9/11,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, and he was taken by Zakari's group
Mhm.
in Iraq. Uh, basically handed, as we talked about, handed over to KSM, right? The reason why it was handed to KSM, just a little fun fact here, is internally in Al Qaeda around KSM, KSM's circle. You'll understand here in a minute why I'm struggling with this. Around a circle, they called him KFC
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah, he used to eat so much chicken, right?
he had a love for KFC in Pakistan.
And if you've seen his before and afters,
Yeah.
it's obvious that he ate a lot of chicken.
So, and that was like the running joke.
Mhm.
Instead of KSM, it was KFC,
Mhm.
right? And he beheaded Daniel Pearl because he thought he was losing power over his group. So he wanted to show these guys that he was still strong.
He was a pawn of pride.
Yeah.
That's what this poor guy was, yeah.
And so that's why he was the one that beheaded Daniel Pearl. So KFC. So when you see pictures of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, I want you to think of KFC because and
That's about all the glory he deserves.
yeah, so but listen, these are folks at the early days of the war would use special needs kids,
Put vests on him and stuff.
put vests on them,
Mhm.
pack their bicycles with C4,
Mhm.
and send them on their way. And use them as ploys
Mhm.
to attack us. You know what I mean? These aren't these are brutal, brutal, brutal people, and they kill Muslims. They kill their own kind.
Yeah.
It's not just Christians. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Islam, that's a big no-no.
To kill your own kind.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, in this distorted view, right? If you are a friendly
Mhm.
to a non-believer or you associate with non-believers,
Mhm.
then essentially you're a non-believer too.
So, one of the scriptures, and I should have out of respect for I got it actually. So, Surah al-Baqarah, I guess this would be called chapter 2, and this is what I would say verse 191 out of the Quran. That's coming from a Bible reader, so I'm sorry if I'm doing that injustice, but that verse says, "Kill them where you find them." But there's scripture before and there's scripture below that comment. And then there's another one that's misused a lot. This is to your point about killing their own kind. I guess one of their prophets is Surah at Tauba. And this is chapter 9, verse 29. It says, "Fight those who do not believe in Allah." So they've taken these are two like glaring examples of scripture that they lean on, because essentially they've got this 10% of the 90% of Islamic groups, and they're going, this ain't the same God. Y'all are, you 90% are way off.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we're not. And they're like, well, I got scripture right here that says, if you don't believe in the God that I'm talking about, y- your ass is mine,
Yeah.
and there is no more debate. Like, that's it,
Yeah.
So you gotta realize you're up against this group of people. And that's how intense it is. It doesn't matter if they are self-proclaimed Islamic or whatever. Like, if you don't believe in their God, they believe they have just cause from their Bible to carry out these mission. It could be a mission, it could be a single death, it could be a beheading,
Mm.
and that's they feel like they're doing the right thing. But then the rest of the Quran shows that that's absolutely not true. And it's violence for them is supposed to be a last resort.
And it goes back to the interpretation of who you're getting your teachings from, right?
Yep.
So, in wrapping this up, and we're going to have a deeper conversation about this. We're working to get a guest on the show who's just back from Syria that can tell you about what he's seen in country with his own eyes.
Mhm.
That's going to be shocking to you, right? Because I've heard some of the stories already, and it makes my Afghan story look pretty peaceful.
Pale in comparison, man.
But when you look at like al-Baghdadi from ISIS, right? Kayla Mueller, aid worker, taken,
Mhm.
raped over and over again by al-Baghdadi, eventually killed by him. And when we killed Baghdadi, the cowardness there, right?
Mhm.
Of, obviously having a vest, but taking kids with him and detonating himself.
Mhm.
Not only killing himself, but killing the kids.
Mhm.
There's weasels, man.
Yeah.
They're just,
Mhm.
they're weak individuals that if they were by themselves would not carry out 1% of what they do, right?
Successful, right.
Yeah, they get a group of people and they feel like it's okay,
Mhm.
to go do these types of things. And really at the end of the day, who are they answering to? They're running amok in these lawless countries
Mhm.
and they're doing whatever.
Mhm.
Until, some military comes in and starts wiping them out, but you're never going to wipe them out.
No, that's not the way it works.
It just doesn't work that way. The numbers of Christians being killed by radical Muslims, and we're talking about, at least in Syria, we're talking about ISIS.
Mhm.
ISIS is responsible for a lot of them all over.
Mhm.
There's a number of jihadi groups, some of them that they're not even on your radar, right? I think somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, there's like 27 different jihadist groups, right?
Yeah.
But you look at like Boko Haram
Mhm.
and ISIS. Interesting one, al-Nusra
Mhm.
in Syria. I know on one of the previous episodes, I can't remember if it was one or two, one of the two. I mentioned the current president of Syria led al-Nusra.
Yeah.
Now he's the president of Syria. His bounty, went away overnight. There was a bounty on his head.
Yeah.
And overnight that disappeared. And now he's in New York, where he was in New York, speaking at the Yunga.
And this guy,
Well, this guy's responsible. His group is
for all these
responsible
Christian
killing
deaths.
they're killing these Christians too, right?
Mhm.
So at some point, same with the Taliban, right?
Yep.
Taliban's no different.
Yep.
And now, we're funding the Taliban, we're sharing intel with all these things. We're trying to make friends with these people
Mhm.
who want to end the way that we conduct our lives, right? And that's not just ordinary people. That's government folks. That's everybody, right? Everybody that doesn't believe in the things that they believe in, they want to exterminate you.
Yeah.
But yet, here we are, government to government. Now we're trying to buddy up with these people. Like, what does that look like future down the road? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
It's like we're cracking the door. We're gonna leave the door open just a little for them.
you think you're going to change your mind? Is somebody from the State Department going to go over to Syria and say, man, you know what? You've been thinking about this all the wrong way
Yeah.
all these years. You know what I mean? And so we really have to, and I know our government, they don't pay ransoms, and I understand that ransoms, they breed further activity because once somebody figures out that the government will pay a ransom, then now there's an uptick in violence and everything else that would, be in some type of ransom situation. What's the difference between a ransom and government support?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The government we just quit doing the money version and we give them
Well,
all the other
and
aid.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. We're doing money version too. So
We also just leave a bunch of our shit over there for them to use.
yeah, well, there's talk about, hey, we're going to go back and get Bagram. You want to see a fight? You wait till we go back and try and get Bagram. Yeah, I don't think that'll ever happen, right? I don't think
Yeah.
that we're ever going to go back. Well, listen,
Not while we're alive. They'll make the mistake again when they forget what happened.
No, we'll go back to Afghanistan here soon.
I agree. I
Yeah.
do agree.
But to actually say, "Hey, Taliban, we're gonna make a deal and we're gonna take over Bagram," I don't think that's ever gonna happen, right? It's gonna have to go by force. And, they call Afghanistan a graveyard of empires for a reason. No one's ever beat them at the game.
Nope.
You talked earlier about the formation of Taliban as an anti-Soviet force initially, right?
Yep.
Well, guess who trained them?
Us.
There you go.
Taught them how to fly too.
Yeah, well, we did teach them jumping jacks. If you ever want to get on YouTube
Get a good laugh.
and look at Afghan jumping jacks, you'll see the bullshit that we had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's definitely, comical. That's the guy trying to do a jumping jack that wants to exterminate you off this planet. And they're here, right? And here's the other thing. This is not some far off, "Hey, these guys are way over here, so I don't have to worry about it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got people here. You got, what we call, unaffiliated sympathizers,
Mm-hmm.
lone wolves, whatever it may be, right?
They might offer them a safe house.
They get radicalized online by the propaganda.
Yep.
And they want to follow their beliefs and kind of what their agendas are, but they do it kind of secretly, if you would, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, you can't really track those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who they are. Now, some of them are idiots,
Mm-hmm.
and they get busted because they, go on Craigslist looking for RPGs or some shit like that, and the FBI picks up like, okay, let's go nail this guy.
Yeah.
For the most part, you don't know who they are. They're here. Right, and they're looking for opportunities, and you don't know how many there are, but they're here. So this is not a far off, "Hey, this is not my problem."
Yeah.
It's going to be your problem. It's going to be something that deserves some attention and some priority when it presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of intel that reports that this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, but as a government, unfortunately, regardless of who's in, we're always reactive
Not proactive.
rather than proactive. So,
I feel like that's a flaw. That's a government flaw based on Christian values too, though. Like
well,
we can't. The common person has a hard time justifying like, well, he looks like a bad guy. I think I'm just gonna go pull him over. You know what I mean? We've already learned that
Yeah.
that's not necessarily a great way to go about business. So I think that model is from the top down. It's like being proactive. They're like, well, how are we going to justify funds? We all kind of know what's going on here, but how are we going to pitch this? Because America has to be so accountable for all of our stuff, which is a curse and a blessing. It's like it has pros and cons to it. But
not until it presents itself
mm-hmm.
can you, do something.
Only shoot if shot at kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because that's the way you live. Even if you wanted to be proactive,
Mm-hmm.
who are you proactive against? I mean, now, grant the government knows what,
Mm-hmm.
mosques and so forth have a radical element
Mm-hmm.
in them, right? I'm sure there's some intel that those guys have, and they may be monitoring those and so forth and so on. But still, probable cause, the way the world is right now, you just can't go busting down doors, racking up people, based on what your opinion is.
Mm-hmm.
Because of physical evidence, right? Because and if not, then they just go free,
It's the Salem
and
witch
it
trials.
furthers their agenda anyway, right? Because now it's like, oh, now you're hating me. More to come on this, more to say. This is going to be an ongoing thing, right? This is, in their eyes, they want to exterminate every religion, but this extremist radical view of Islam. And that's when the government, when the president says this is your radical Islam, people are like, well, why do you call it radical? That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's largely without logical basis.
These aren't moderates.
Yeah.
These aren't, the 99%.
Yeah.
These are radical, Muslims. And that's unfortunately what it is. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to call it for what it is. COVID came from China.
Yep.
It's the Chinese virus.
It is what it is.
It's number 2 on the lunch menu. When you go order it, order number 2 combo. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it sound like when you order Chinese fish?
You. But hey, before we close, I think we've done a pretty good job of setting the foundation for the guests that will be on the next episode. We don't know when that episode will be for multiple reasons, but the next episode, you're going to want to tune in. And if you go ahead and subscribe now, you'll get an automatic ping likely, or it'll be on the top of your news feed because the guy we're bringing in next, I'm not even going to say who it is yet. We're going to wait and just tease you guys. But as of very recently, he was in some of the places where these issues are arising from. So you're going to get a fresh take on what it actually looks like from a human being that was standing over there. That'll be interesting. But in the meantime, you guys, a little bit of homework for you. Look up the just war theory, and just in the sense of justice, not just as in a way to connect a sentence. But look that up, and once you get that full picture and you come back to us, it'll have we will have laid a very supportive foundation for who's coming on next, so you guys can really get a look at what else is going on in the world.
Yeah, and listen, let us know what you think, right? Let us know, if we missed anything,
Hmm.
if our concept or thoughts are wrong. Let us know your opinions, whether you are in favor, not in favor, agree, disagree, whatever. Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings at all, right? So let us know. And I think, we have a topic here that probably could go on for episode and episode and episode. But we do have a guest that we're gonna follow up and have a deeper, probably a bit more graphic,
Hmm.
but eyewitness, stories right from the front lines
Hmm.
on this. And I don't know what that looks like yet. I mean, I know what it looks like because I've been there. I think some of these stories are going to shock you, right? And you're gonna, it's going to be baffling. Maybe it's not going to be baffling to you. Maybe already know what to expect. But I think it's going to be an interesting conversation. And we want to, listen. We want to have dialogue with you guys. So let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, and Matt, this is actually kind of coming off the cuff, but I kind of feel compelled to say something. If you're somebody that's listening to this and you've kind of gone down the rabbit hole and you've ended up on our channel and you're in a situation where you kind of feel like there may be some coercion at play, maybe it's Christianity or maybe it's an Islamic church or a mosque, do me a favor, ask yourself a few questions. The first question is, are you allowed to leave? And if the answer is no, you are likely in the wrong religion. And the easiest way to fix that is pop next door to the church that claims to be just like it and see what's going on there. Reach out to somebody you trust and reach out to us if you have to. But just make sure that you're not already caught up in something like this.
Like what I told my kids, and I don't ever talk about my kids on here because I don't want you crazy bastards to listen to this shit. Like I tell them, have the power to ask your own questions and have your own beliefs.
Mhm. If you're not allowed to do that in the religion that you follow or the group that you run with, that should be your common sense indicator. Like something's not right here. That's not the way you're supposed to live. So
Yeah.
I don't know why I just felt like that needed to be said at the end of this thing, but
Yeah. There's people out there that will, take advantage of you and misguide you to their own benefit. So have enough self-respect
Mhm.
to form your own opinion. Ask questions, form your own opinion. We're Operation Common Sense,
Yep.
and that's it for today.
Have a good one, guys.